In today's video, we are going to replace a stabilizer link in a van. Basically the way a stabilizer link works, it connects to a stabilizer bar. If this was a stabilizer bar that ran underneath your vehicle, like runs underneath the engine and everything, bottom part of the vehicle. And when you go around a turn, of course, the weight of the vehicle starts to go like that. And what the stabilizer link does is it connects to the end of the stabilizer bar at a higher part on the vehicle, generally up around the strut, and it'll push this down. Now, if these links wear out, as they have in this vehicle, what you'll find is that as you're going around a turn, you'll feel the vehicle almost go farther than it's supposed to as you turn. So we're going to replace this out. Once you have the vehicle jacked up and safely supported, there's a pretty straightforward procedure. Here's our stabilizer link here. Here's our strut. Top end of it connects up there. We're going to clean this off with a wire brush so we can get to that the nut there. And down below, here's the bottom of our stabilizer link. You can see the issue, what happened here with the top part of our link over the years. Seeing as how this is a year 2000 vehicle and it's now 2016, this rubber has rotted out and all the grease inside has leaked out of it. Down here is the connection to the stabilizer bar here, which runs under the vehicle. I don't know, see how far we can see that under the engine there. And there's the bottom part of our stabilizer link. This particular stabilizer link, 18mm nut on it here. I sprayed some lubricant on it, fluid film, which I find great. I don't do product placement, but I find it really good. That loosened off nicely there. And I didn't try to loosen it off before, so that came surprisingly good. Now what you're going to find here, possibly, is as you release this, you're going to have to put some pressure on it, because it may come to a point where the nut is just turning and the ball joint inside of here is turning also. So if you push out on the stabilizer link, like hopefully that's coming out in the camera, that'll put pressure on it out that way. Okay, so here's my pry bar here. If, as I say, you're turning this nut and turning it and you look, you take your socket off there and it doesn't seem to be coming out any further, then you're probably got the issue of that nut, of the ball joint in here rather, turning. So you take a bar in behind there, press out on the link, that puts pressure on it, that should, and now if we're turning this nut with that outward pressure there, that should be coming off. Let's see here. So look, we can see here how much further that is. So it's not spinning on the ball joint anymore because I have that pressure in behind pushing out on the stabilizer link. Keep pushing that there. My wrench is getting caught behind my camera. There we go. And we can see that's almost off there. Not quite finger tight yet. Now I can just push it out with my hand. And she's almost off. There we go. Just give that a tap with the hammer, or do that. On the bottom part of the link, I couldn't get my long socket in there, so you should be able to see my wrench here. Now, whenever you're working from behind on something like that, just take a minute and think about which way you want to turn that. Because normally, it's the old lefty-loosey, counterclockwise to loosen something and clockwise to tighten it, righty-tighty. However, because we're going on this nut from the rear side here, it's still going to be the same. We're going to do the lefty-loosey to loosen, or in other words counterclockwise to loosen, but I'm actually going to be from this angle pulling the wrench. It's going to look clockwise, because if we were on the other side of that, it would look to be in the correct direction. Now I'm going to lift this up. Now see, here's something you're going to possibly run into. I'm lifting that stabilizer bar. Now that nut, I just felt that loosen off, so that's fine. But I wouldn't, if that was really tight, I wouldn't keep reaming on that, because if you get enough force on that, you know, potentially you could bend the stabilizer bar. Little turns like that. It's coming off there. We'll do the same on that. Get that loosened off a ways and then knock the link out of there. There we go. Just want to show you, we got that issue again. I'm turning the nut here. You can actually see the boot on the bottom of our stabilizer link turning there. So I could turn this nut as much as I want it to. It's not going to come off because it's just spinning. The ball joint is spinning in here. So again, I'm going to put an outward pressure on this. Get my bar in there. With the bar on, I can feel the nut coming off there. Just wanted to illustrate that. Something you can run in with these stabilizer links and other parts on vehicles too. Anything like that that has a ball joint, a part like that that has a ball joint in it. Here's our new link. Take those nuts off of the end and set them aside. I always like to put the link in place at whichever point is going to be harder to get at. And in this scenario, the bottom one on the stabilizer link is harder to get at. I'll explain why in a second. So I'll place that and I'm going to tighten that up. Actually, just while we're here, this is why this is easy to get at up here. We can see that because the vehicle is jacked, the link isn't matching up. So what we're going to do here in a couple of minutes is we're going to jack this point up so that this hole lines up. We have to use a little bit more strategy when we're installing the new one, because if it's spinning on the ball joint, we don't want to put our bar in and damage our rubber boot right there. So put lubricant on the bolt side of it. I've given it a spray with WD-40 or fluid film, whatever it is you use, so that the nut is going to spin fairly easily on the thread. Luckily, this new one has a nut. It's also an 18mm, so you can see I have a wrench here on the 18mm nut, and I've already tightened it up from the other side here. So the wrench, let's see if I can get a little bit more on that just to show you. As I turn that, yeah, that's definitely tight enough anyway. You can see that it didn't spin over on this side. So you don't want to pry out on here and damage that rubber boot, because that's what keeps the grease in there. Here's the part I was talking about where we're going to get the top part of our link installed here. We can see here's our hole through our strut that's going to go through, and this is actually too hot. I'm going to jack underneath the brake rotor and get that lined up. Here's my jack, little piece of wood there so as not to damage the rotor. Turn this, you get the idea. That starts lifting everything up. Put my camera up here by the, zoom in a little bit, and I'll just jack that a little bit, and you'll start to see those line up there. Something like that. Don't want to damage those threads. There. Get a shot of whatever lubricant it is that you use, just so it'll make it a little easier for that nut to go on, and we don't have to be applying so much pressure and possibly damaging that boot. At this point, I'm gonna just push in on it, and you can get a fair bit on it, fair bit of that nut on there before you really have to hold it with the other side with that socket. Put that through on the other side. Careful not to get that rubber boot caught in the middle, and righty tighty clockwise to tighten that up. Sometimes when you're doing a job like this too, you can make your life a little easier. If we take note down here, this wrench that is holding the nut from the other side of our link, I have that in behind the tie rod here, and that way when I'm tightening it, when I tighten this up, I only really have to worry about this side of it, because this wrench is keeping, I don't have to try to hold this wrench in place also. And as you can see here, I've got that good and tight now. At this point, with our link in place, we can lower the jack, put the pressure onto that stabilizer link. Here's the link we removed. Both ends, the rubber is cracked and all the grease is gone out of them. This end here was really bad, as you can see, and if I take this end of it here and move it in, I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. I can really feel it as I do it. So the ball joint inside here is really worn out. You can probably hear that even clicking there, it's that worn.